Hey everybody, it's your girl Curly Cass. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to the Curl Fam, where I share my experiences as a mother, mental health clinician, and curly girl. So today we are going to be discussing something that is near and dear to my heart that I'm really excited to talk about, and that is breastfeeding. So I have recently become a mom 6 months ago to my son Avery, and we have been on our breastfeeding journey since the day he was born. And let me tell you, it has been a journey. So I am really excited to start this breastfeeding series where I can share my experiences, my tips, everything that I think might be helpful for new moms or moms who haven't breastfed before, who are looking to breastfeed, and maybe even some people who are struggling right now in their breastfeeding journey. So the first part of this breastfeeding series is to break down some of the terms and the lingo that they use. Some words that I have never heard of before in my life and that you probably will never hear unless you are breastfeeding or becoming a mom. So long before I got pregnant with my son, I always knew that I wanted to breastfeed. Now, breastfeeding is a lot different than people make it seem. So in the very beginning, even before I got pregnant, for years, I always thought it was this very simple thing that people do. You know, you take your kid, you whip out a boob, you feed them, and then that's it. However, it is a lot more complicated than just that. And a lot of older women will have you believe, and veteran moms will have you believe, that it's something really easy and natural and it just comes and it just happens. And you know, your baby cries and you feed them and then that's it. But I'm here to tell you that that is so not the case. There are so many complexities that go into breastfeeding, so many different factors that I had no idea about. And I feel like if I knew before, I would have had a lot less of a difficult time. And so that's what I'm here to do for all of you. So the first part of this breastfeeding series is going to be this video where we talk about all the terms, all the lingo, all of the things that you are going to need to know. So in no particular order here, I am going to start with one of the words that was very confusing to me that I probably didn't hear until I started doing my research on breastfeeding. And that word is latch. So the word latch is referencing a baby's mouth position to your nipples. So how your baby grabs on, latches on to your nipple to be able to get the most out of their sucks. So when a baby's first born, they're really tiny and so cute, and their mouths are so little and they have no idea what they're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. And so a baby's latch is super important. Some babies have issues with latching, whether they have tongue ties or lip ties, all words that I'm going to talk about later on. And so the latch is really important because if your baby's latch is not right onto your nipple and your baby's mouth is not wide enough and open enough to get the whole nipple in there to be able to suck, it's going to cause you a lot of pain, physical pain, and it's going to cause your baby a lot of frustration because the baby's not going to be able to suck properly and get all of the milk out with each suck. And remember, when babies are first born, they're so tiny and they're so little and they don't have a lot of strength and a lot of power yet. You know, they're just these little like blobs that are just here trying to figure it out. And so something that I learned that was really important when it comes to breastfeeding is making sure that your baby has a good latch, because that's going to be a really solid foundation for you in your breastfeeding journey and for your baby as well. If the latch isn't right later on, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. It can cause for you to not get all of your milk out, which can cause an issue with your milk supply, which can cause an issue with clogged milk ducts. So it's a lot. It's one of those things that you need to have down packed in order to have a successful and relaxing, easy breastfeeding journey. But it's also going to be really frustrating and really discouraging for you to be able to feed your baby because you feel like you're not doing it right. You feel like there's something wrong with you. Why isn't my baby latching? Is it me? Is there something wrong with me? Does it not like the milk? When really that's not the case at all. The case is that you need to make sure that your baby's mouth is open wide enough to get the nipple in there. And when I say nipple, I'm not talking about like that one little piece that you see. I'm talking about the entire nipple. Your entire areola needs to be up in that baby's mouth. Because if it's not, the baby is not going to be able to suck properly. And when it doesn't suck properly, your baby's going to get discouraged. You're discouraged. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your hair is everywhere. You haven't showered in 3 days. And now you have no idea what to do. And so you go ahead and you're like, you know what, maybe breastfeeding isn't for me. I need to go switch to formula. And it could easily be resolved with making sure that you have a proper latch. Now, as I said before, some babies have trouble with latching, and it can be due to a lip tie or a tongue tie. So a lip tie is when the upper lip has too thick of a skin so that the mouth is not physically able to open up wide enough to be able to latch on to the nipple. And that's something that you can check for and you can ask your doctor about, and they will be able to diagnose you properly. And a tongue tie is something a little bit similar to a lip tie, which is where the tongue has limited mobility, and so it prevents the tongue from being able to help the baby suck properly. And that's another issue that can be either resolved on its own or that will need medical intervention. And they're really common. They're, most cases, easy to fix. If you go onto any Facebook groups and you're worried about your baby having a tongue tie or a lip tie, you will see that there are a significant amount of people who experience that. So it's nothing to worry about usually. It's pretty common, and it's something that has an easy fix. The next vocab word that we're going to talk about when it comes to breastfeeding is skin-to-skin contact. Skin-to-skin contact is when you are literally bare skin to bare skin with the baby, and this helps so much with the hormones running through your body, and it helps significantly with milk supply. So I had no idea. I really thought that skin-to-skin contact was only for like dads or like your partner who isn't breastfeeding, or for the partner who didn't give birth to the baby, to help them feel closer. And so I had no idea that skin-to-skin contact is for moms too. So skin-to-skin contact is to help you with your milk supply. It's to help the baby, the scent, it helps them feel close to you. It helps them know that you're still there. So this baby is thrown into this world where they have no idea what's going on. They can't really see anything. They can, somewhat hear, and they're really relying on like their nose, their sense of smell to know what's going on. And so they smell you, they know you, they've been inside of you for 9 months, and it's a sense of familiarity for them to be able to smell you and to be skin to skin with you. And so it helps you build that bond with them, and it also helps with milk supply significantly. Another word is milk supply. So I've already said this word probably like 5 times. So milk supply is how much milk you're making. And this varies from person to person, which is something that I had no idea about. And I had no clue that it is a supply and demand process. So however much you feed your baby is however much milk your gut body is going to produce. So it's really important to breastfeed your child, or pump if you're pumping, as much as you possibly can, so that way your body knows, okay, I need to feed this baby every 2 hours, and this is how much they're eating, so I need to make sure that I make this amount. And so that is something that's going to be really important at milk supply. Now, in regards to milk supply, I had no idea what an overproducer was or what an underproducer was. Like I said, I just thought that you grab the baby, you pull out your boob, you feed it, and then that's it. So an oversupplier is somebody who makes a lot of milk. And so that might sound self-explanatory, but it's somebody who sometimes can pump anywhere from like 9 to 12 ounces. And you might not know what that looks like. You know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So a normal milk supply is going to be about maybe 2 right here to 4 ounces. So this is about as much as you're going to get out of one pumping session for each boob. So you're going to get either 2 ounces each boob, or maybe 3, maybe 4 if you're lucky. That's normal. An overproducer is somebody who makes anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces per breast. Okay, so that means each boob is filling up one of these, or at least right up to there. So an overproducer is somebody who deals with a lot of milk. And so it doesn't necessarily have to do with how much they're feeding their baby with the supply and demand that I was talking about earlier. Sometimes it's just their hormones, it's just the way that their body is set up. They produce a significant amount of milk, which is awesome in most cases. And also it can be a little bit of a burden because you're dealing with clogged ducts, you're dealing with a lot of pumping that you have to do, round the clock scheduling. You usually don't just breastfeed if you're an overproducer, you usually have to pump as well to help manage just the amount of milk that you're getting. And so that is what an overproducer is. Now, an underproducer is exactly what it sounds like. An underproducer is somebody who is unable to produce the amount of milk necessary to feed their baby only breast milk. And so an underproducer is somebody who might produce maybe 1 to 2 ounces total. So 1 to 2 ounces will probably look like either right here or right here total for each breast. But an underproducer is somebody who is unable physically to produce enough milk to solely feed their baby breast milk. And another word that I had no idea about until I joined these Facebook mommy groups and pumping and breastfeeding groups was what a just enougher is. So a just enougher is exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody who produces just enough milk, but they're unable to usually build up a supply, a freezer stash. And so that makes it really difficult for them. And so they usually have a hard time with saving any milk for the baby, but they are usually able to feed their baby breast milk. And sometimes some people might supplement and some people might not. And so that brings me to the next word of supplementing. What the fuck is supplementing? So supplementing means that you give your baby breast milk, but you also supplement what you can't make with breast milk with formula. And so a lot of people do this actually if they're unable to produce the amount of milk that the baby needs at any given time. Some people will do, bottles of breast milk in the morning and formula at night, or vice versa. It's really just up to your preference, but that is what supplementing is. And of course, when you join Facebook groups, you will see the ever popular acronyms. So I'm gonna break those down to you as well, because it took me so long and so much Googling to figure out what any of this stuff was. So some common acronyms that you'll see is FTM, first time mom. Or you will see LO, which stands for little one, or SO, which stands for significant other, MIL, which is mother-in-law. A lot of people be talking about their mother-in-laws in those groups, okay? EBF, exclusively breastfed or breastfeeding. EP, exclusively pumping. So those are called exclusive pumpers. So they will only pump milk. They will not put the baby up to the nipple, whether it's for latch reasons, for pain reasons, if they have inverted nipples, all of that good stuff. And then there are people who do both like me. So I breastfeed my son and I also pump. So what I pump out is enough milk for the night, because at nighttime I don't want to wake up every few hours to feed him when he's hungry, because I gotta sleep too. So what I do is I will pump every 2 hours to get the milk out, and I will save whatever I don't need for the night and I will freeze it away so that dad can use it when he is home alone, or when I go back to work, or whenever this quarantine is over and I get to leave this house. But for now, I am still pumping, but I am breastfeeding him most of the day. Yeah, I feel like that's it. I don't know what else people be saying on there. Yeah. That's all I got. So the next word that I had heard of, but I wasn't really sure about, was the word pumping. So pumping is a really common word that you're gonna hear a lot. So pumping is something that you do with a machine that you attach it to your nipple and you turn it on, and it literally stimulates your breast to release the milk. And pumping is a whole nother animal, it's a whole nother monster that I'm gonna tackle in a separate video that's gonna be part of this breastfeeding series. So one word that I had never heard of when I was pregnant, never heard of before I got pregnant, was the word let down. So a letdown can occur at any given time for different people. So people experience letdowns for different reasons. So when I first had Avery, I had a letdown every time I would look at him. And so a letdown is when you literally feel the milk, as I'm like holding my chest, it's when you literally feel the milk swelling up into your boobs and it needs to be released. And it, for me, is painful. So it feels like, I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like when you're blowing a balloon and it's like about to pop. That's how it feels. And when it pops, your milk comes down. And so this can happen for a variety of reasons for different people. Some people feel the letdown and some people don't. I feel the letdown every single time I have one. And in the very beginning, when I first had my son, I would get a letdown literally when I looked at him. Like, I would look at him and be like, oh my God, he's so cute. I love him so much. And then you just feel it. It's just like, this is how, like, this is my illustration of what it feels like. It feels like, and then the milk comes down. That's like my animation of what a letdown feels like. So I would feel one every time I looked at him and thought about how much I loved him. That's what would happen. If I was like kissing him and loving him, it would just come down. And it's actually pretty cool when you think about it, because it's your brain and your hormones signaling your body like, this is a cue. Oh, her baby's here. Cue milk. You know, oh, we love our baby. Cue milk. So it's actually kind of cool when you think about it, that your brain and your body have this capability to be able to know that your baby is around. Every time I smelled him, I would have a letdown in the very beginning. It's actually really cool. As you go through your breastfeeding journey, you are not gonna experience as many letdowns if you're just like a regular producer like me. It tends to kind of calm down after the first 6 weeks. So it takes about 6 weeks for your milk supply, remember that word earlier, to regulate. And so after those 6 weeks, you start to notice that you'll only have a letdown if you really need to pump, if you really need to breastfeed, for those of you who are exclusively breastfeeding, EBF. And when you start to feed your baby, they will like first, when they latch on, they will suck really, really fast to like try and get the milk out. And then that signals your body to go ahead and let the milk down. And so when you're breastfeeding them on one side, you'll feel the letdown coming down on both sides. You'll feel a letdown for a variety of reasons. You can feel it when in the very beginning, when your hormones are still trying to regulate and like you see your baby and you're like, oh my God, I love you so much, you're adorable. Or if you smell your baby, or if your baby's crying, sometimes that would happen to me too. Like if my baby was crying, I would have a letdown sometimes. Or if you need to pump, or if you need to breastfeed, if you're full, or if the baby is sucking and starting to have your milk come down, you'll feel a letdown. So that is what a letdown is. Okay, so another word that I did not know about was a milk duct. So a milk duct is what carries your milk from where it's produced in the gland of your breast to your nipple to feed your baby. And so it actually, if you look up a picture of a milk duct, they kind of look like a little grape almost. Like they're all in your breast and they look like a little vine of grapes. Now, related to milk ducts is a word that I didn't know about, which was having a clogged milk duct. So it's something that thankfully I have not experienced yet, but it is where it's exactly what it sounds like. The milk is clogged in your milk duct and it's super painful. If you feel your chest, you can feel where it's at. Usually it feels like very lumpy and hard and it's sore. It hurts a lot from what I've heard. So you can get clogged milk ducts, and that can be for a variety of reasons. If you're an overproducer, like we talked about earlier, you have so much milk flowing that you can't keep up with the release of it, that a lot of times it will cause a clogged milk duct. So usually you can cure them pretty quickly at home, but that is one word that I had no idea about before I started my breastfeeding journey. Ooh, another good one that I had no idea about is a lactation consultant. So if you go on those Facebook groups, you'll see LC because they like to make everything into an acronym. So LC, a lactation consultant. So that is a person who specializes in lactation, who specializes in breastfeeding, pumping, all of those good things. And you can usually find them at your hospital, actually, wherever you gave birth, or if you had a midwife or a doula, whatever. They usually are able to give you some really, really good information about breastfeeding and give you tips on what you should do if you're having a hard time with latching. It's somebody who specializes in breastfeeding and in nursing. And so that is a really great resource to have that I had no idea about. And luckily I didn't really need it, but if somebody does need it, you know that you can go to your local hospital and ask them about a lactation consultant, and they should be able to set you up. So engorgement, that is like my least favorite thing to deal with when it comes to breastfeeding. So engorgement is exactly what it sounds like. It is when you have so much milk filled up into your breast that it literally swells your boobs up. So for me, like my boobs will get like a whole cup size and a half larger, and they get really hard and stiff and they hurt and it's sore. It's super uncomfortable. And the only way to get rid of the engorgement is to release your milk, whether that's by pumping or breastfeeding, or like even hand expressing. So that is a method that people use to release the milk, but it happens Like for me, it happens if I take too long to pump, or if I take too long in between breastfeeding, or if I sleep through the night and I don't wake up in the middle of the night to breastfeed. I will wake up like this. So it's super uncomfortable, really painful, but it's a part of breastfeeding, so it is what it is. Another one, this is a really good one that I had no idea about when it came to breastfeeding, is hand expressing. So this one is not self-explanatory at all. So some women, for some odd reason, will feel the need or benefit, or whatever you want to call it, to do what's called hand expressing. So instead of taking an electric pump or even a manual pump where like you can stick it onto your nipple and just like do it manually and let out the milk, they will choose to hand express. So I really don't know how people can like actually realistically do this, because it's messy, it's sticky, and it takes forever. So it is where you take your whole boob in your hand and you hand express the milk out. Now, I do this while I'm pumping. So while I'm pumping, I'll just kind of like give myself a massage a little bit to help the milk come out faster and to prevent any clogged ducts like we talked about earlier. Especially when I'm engorged, I'll do this. But some people will only hand express. Like they will take a bottle. I don't even know how they do it, to be honest with you. I'm just making this shit up. So they'll take a bottle, put it somewhere, and they will hand express the milk out. I don't know why people do it. Apparently that's a thing. So that's hand expressing. Now that concludes all of the terminology that I didn't know before I got pregnant, before I started my breastfeeding journey, that I think will really, really help some of you out if you're struggling in your breastfeeding journey, if you're starting your breastfeeding journey, if you're pregnant and hoping to breastfeed. These are some of the words that you definitely want to take a look at, that you want to do some research on, just because it can help a lot with giving you some information, some resources, some tools, and honestly some empowerment over what you're doing, because let's be real, nobody really knows what the they're doing until they try it. And so I'm here to help make your life a little bit easier through my experiences. And so I am hoping that this video can reach you, and I'm really, really excited to continue on with this breastfeeding series because I think it's really going to be helpful for a lot of people. So if you like this video and you want to see more, please, please, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you can see my weekly videos. Thanks, everybody.